Friday, March 8th, market analysis, Dan Ehrlich. And we start out with the stock market indexes. And we got a very interesting day developing. I normally don't talk about fundamentals very much, but there was a fundamental number that came out this morning, 5:30 California time, when they usually do, that just shook the indexes, which is not all that uncommon. But what we've got at the moment is a market that has dropped off initially from the report. And I'll go to my spider 1 minute chart real quick here. And it should be the E-mini. I'm sorry, that'll be open at the right time. And squish to show you the sharp break. Now, 5:30 California time, right there. Numbers came out. I think it was something like unemployment. I'm not sure. Dropped off first very sharply, and within 60 seconds came screaming back up again to much higher than the price before the report came out. Okay, we're right here. Report came out and went down, boom, to that low right there. And we haven't yet got below that low. Went all the way back up and kept going up. Finally wore itself out on the rally. A retracement, wiggling around quite a bit, made the high of the day. Since then, at about 7 o'clock California time, we have been sinking. How much sinking can we put up with? Let me squish even more. And this is the way it's been acting yesterday afternoon, last night, and then you got that 5:30 a.m. California time announcement. I think, again, it was something to do with unemployment. So we need to get all the way down, and it doesn't look very likely at all. Below here, about 5,086 or so, in order to have a bearish engulfing outside down day. Plus, if you're looking, that's the E-mini. Going back to the daily charts, we were overbought 1 day ago, 2, 3, 4 days ago on that rally. So if we have a bearish engulfing today, it should turn red and you will have a major bearish ER sell signal. But you have to get below yesterday's low and you have to close below unchanged. Not happening yet. Let's go back here for a second to look at the daily spider chart. You got the new high, you got the overbought condition within the allotted back number of days, a few days ago. And all I have to do is see the damn thing get below yesterday's low, but it's far away. So that does not look very likely. On the 1 minute, we're close to the lows, bouncing at the moment. We'll see what happens. You know, for the last, well, too long, couple of weeks more, I've been looking for a downside retracement. And the spider actually have been looking for 477 and maybe even down to 465. And that's saying something. Consider we're looking at 514 at the moment, or about 30 points down. Not gigantic, but, you know, not to be ignored. Obviously, on the 1 minute, the same story. Now, the E-mini is going to be the same story, just different numbers. It is overbought within the last few days. It does have a higher high today, and it just has to get below yesterday's low, which is a tall story, not particularly likely. But we're heading down, and it's 9:45 California time, plenty of time left until 1 o'clock when the close occurs. Plus, it's Friday. A lot of unusual things happen on Fridays, kind of like liquidation before an uncertain 3-day or 2-day weekend. Whatever. QQQ. Higher high, almost a lower low, but unfortunately, we never got overbought within the last 5 or so days, so it's not going to be a red ER sell signal. It may be a bearish engulfing candlestick, which will look really, good for a sell signal, but it's not quite my sell signal combined completely. Just a second. Okay, now, Qs on a 1 minute, close to the lows. Tried to hold for a bit, broke it slightly. I think it's going to make new lows very, very soon. There goes one of my alarms. I've been experimenting with those this morning. Next chart. We've got the NASDAQ daily data. We've got the higher high, but unfortunately not quite overbought within the last several days. So we're not going to get a red bar, but we might get a bearish engulfing if it gets below the low of yesterday. That would be probably bearish. I like that. I want that. I'm just not going to get the red bar because of the lack of overbought conditions. Next chart is the NASDAQ futures real time, coming very close to it, making new lows. And I'm going to take that alarm line and just drop it a little bit more. So it was a different alarm apparently that went off a moment ago. Okay, and next is the Russell 2000. New high for the trend, finally. And now we're at the low or close to it of the day, and it could have a bearish engulfing also, except the same darn problem is happening. We're not quite there on overbought. It got up to, if I remember correctly, 74, like 80 something, really just barely missed 74, 72, just barely missed being overbought. Close doesn't count. You know the rest. Next, 1 minute Russell, nothing new here, just finding a little support for the moment. Now, bonds and notes. I got to tell you, I don't know that I've seen this actually before. If I have, it's been a very, very long time. This looks all normal, well and good. Right now, you're a little bit below the opening, and we're down on the day 3 ticks, net lower. But we never got higher than yesterday's high, therefore no bearish engulfing. Now, the important comment I want to make here is that the bonds and the notes, which I'll show you in the notes in a moment, have a tail, or wick rather, here that lasted less than 60 seconds. At 5:30 in the morning, the numbers came out, and all of a sudden, both bonds and notes crashed for about 30 seconds, or maybe even less, and went right back up again within the same 60 seconds and got to higher than where they were before the news came out. That is a wild swing. Show it to you in a moment in notes. Now, the notes are still up 4 ticks, but sinking and sinking. I've been watching these for a couple of hours. 3 ticks now. If this goes to -1, it should turn red and get an official sell signal because it does have an outside trading range day in overbought conditions today. That's all it's lacking is the net lower on the day number. And right now it's up 3 or 4 ticks, 4 ticks. The 1 minute, that 1 minute right there, all the way from a 111 and 25, 30 seconds down to 111.08, all happened within 60 seconds. From there down to the low, back up to higher. I looked at a tick chart. I know. Wild. But these things happen, and they always happen when you're not watching or paying attention because you don't think it's going to happen, and they do. So that's a major reason for algorithms. More likely than not, most people wouldn't be able to make a sense out of it or do anything about it because it lasted like half a minute. Next, crude. Bearish engulfing, not overbought. Implication, because of the Japanese candlestick being a bearish engulfing, it's supposed to go down some. I completely agree. I've been looking at this resistance area. There goes another alarm. I've been looking at this resistance area for a week, thinking it was going to do what it looks like it's starting to do right now. So I think we're going to come down to this trend line and maybe even lower soon. Next, heating oil. Bearish engulfing at the moment, but not overbought. The candlestick itself being a bearish engulfing implies the market's going to start slipping some more. I exactly agree. We are in a trade from that short sale signal on February 13th still. We did not get bumped out because the stop did not get hit. That's our trailing stop. So, great, I hope. Next, we are out of this natural gas trade from a buy signal several days ago. Worked out okay, not a lot, but we're flat, and it's starting to make lower lows on a second day in a row. I think this is going to slip off some more. It stopped going up in an area of resistance, and now we're on the edge, the bottom of it. I think it's going to break out to the downside, test these lows at 1.632, and probably make lower lows. Next chart, unleaded gas, RBOB. Doji today, inside day, a bullish engulfing yesterday. No strength follow through so far today, but with all the other energies looking like they are probably going to slip down some more, I found it a little difficult to come up with a bullish comment on RBOB. So I think yesterday's bullish engulfing may not pan out very well. I'm looking at a move down, but I'm not very certain, or I'm going to pass on this. I just don't have enough goodies to tell you. Next, except for that significant resistance area that is causing problems, but we're not breaking out. Now, oh my God, gold just won't stop. Now, don't let that affect your trading unless you believe that a 93 RSI, unheard of, is telling you it's about to top out big time. And that's what I have to say. 90s are very rare to begin with, especially 93. I don't know how many years I would have to go back to find a 93 if I could. And the implication is very important. Gold is about to, in my opinion, break down a chunk. I know it's a new high for many months, and probably more than just many months. Okay, you got to go all the way back to March of 22, 2 years, almost exactly. If we don't close above the previous highs, which would be 2,182.60, it looks like, and we're currently trading 2191 and change. If we close below those other highs that we made back on May of last year, and in particular December, only a few months ago last year, that could be the beginning of the break. If you make new highs for an extended period of time like we have done, and you don't stay there, that's not particularly a good sign, let alone a 93 on the RSI. Watch out. Gold, I think, is about to turn down substantially. Next, silver, 4 days in a row overbought, not quite as overbought. It's in the 80s, which is substantial. And I have to say the same thing. I think silver is going to turn back into the support area below 23 to maybe 22.20-ish. Next, platinum. Nothing going on. Sideways, minor new high for a week or three or so. Support did hold, and it's now popped up out of the support range, but I'm not really fond of this. The big sideways trading range here since July, summer of last year, we're nowhere near any bullish breakout. We're relatively close to a bearish breakout, but it didn't happen a few days ago, and it came super close. So maybe there's a little rally left, and then turning down to make new lows for quite a long period of time. Next, copper. Bumping against resistance almost exactly the same as yesterday, today. Right at the bottom of the resistance area, right there. So there's a chance it could poke its way into the resistance slightly, but I'm, of course, not expecting it to break out above 4.0230. I think maybe today's high is it. We're almost low and last, and you just might make a bearish engulfing out of this. But unfortunately, we came so close looks like 74.22. Yep, for today's RSI high. That's not quite 75. I think it's turning down. Next, soybeans. Oversold, rallied up into resistance, and now we're at the high end of the resistance. It's doing a little better than I expected, but not out of the realm of expectations. And now we're not overbought yet. It could top out right in here. Very good chance of that. I can't ignore the possibility of it popping up a little bit more. It's still not going to go very far for very long, and I expect it to still turn around and end up making new lows for the whole trend relatively soon, this month. Next, oil, bean oil. Bearish engulfing right now. Almost got overbought. Bear trend, bumping against the top of support. I think it's going to start sliding into the support area and take it out and end up trending lower and lower and lower and lower. In fact, within a month or two, maybe 38.60s down at the bottom of the move we had last May. Next chart. Corn. Oops, I'm sorry, meal. Soybean meal. Did have a buy signal at the bottom, exactly. Very short-term trade for 3 days. Okay, good. Downside correction a little bit more than I expected, but notice it was 4 days after the signal day, and I only get in 3 days, 2 days, and 1 day after the signal day if the ER3 allows us to. Now, the price is right, but it waited too long, so I didn't buy it at around 327.40. It would have been nice, but that's not the way the system works. So obviously I'm friendly a little bit, but we're between a rock and a hard spot. There's quite a bit of resistance around where we are and a little bit higher. I think it's going to roll over again and go down to new lows also and start eating into and through and below this support area. That's going to be quite bullish. It'll be a new low for apparently a year and a half, close to 2 years. Yeah, about a year and a half, maybe a hair less. Next, meal. This is the same chart, but on a 1 minute basis, high and last momentarily. So we might get a little bit more strength short term. And on this 1 minute chart, that's our previous trade. The scalp lost a little. The overnight made a little. It looks like it was probably a net small loss. One was slightly profitable. The other one was a little bit larger loser. Next chart. Corn. Bottom of the market, bullish engulfing, oversold conditions, perfect setup, the ones I love. Using these particular kicker settings, we are still holding the corn trade. Now, I did manipulate the STS, the smart trailing stop, a little bit on purpose to hold the trade. I want to see how far I can carry this. If you had used different kicker stops and gotten bumped out earlier, you probably would have made some money, but not as much as we got right now because we're high and last for the trend. So that's the story behind this, and it's looking awful good, but I don't trust it. Again, the trend in this market in corn is down. There's no major bottom here. I don't see this as being the low for 6 months. It's possible, but I don't see it yet. I got to have some kind of a top, probably in this area, 450, 60, a retracement, then another new high, and that'll take several weeks. Then I'm starting to talk about today, or not today, February 26th, that we did get a buy signal and did get a trade-off, only the ER1 overnight and scalp. But the ER3 never got filled, never came down into the necessary price range. So there are possibilities, but right now I don't trust it. Next, corn. 1 minute, still in the trade, looking good. Got in several days ago, back here. Looks nice. No problems with it whatsoever. Now, wheat. Where am I? Okay, got to go a little faster. broke support. We have a brand new buy signal today. I don't have ER1 up and running and loaded and showing you the trade, but this is a green bullish engulfing in wheat. Again, we had one that made a little money, did okay a couple of weeks ago. This is a new low ground. If I am going to talk about a big long-term bullish trade here, what has to happen is obviously we're going to be getting in today. ER1 is already in. ER1 scalp and overnight, and both are probably doing okay because they're almost high and last right now. Excuse me, and above yesterday's high, so that's good. And I'll turn these things on for you for tomorrow. I meant Monday. First objective to the upside, 553 3/4 ish, because that's the beginning of resistance. If it can get to there and not get stopped out and still keep coming up without any significant downside movements, then we're probably going to move our way back up toward the 380s. Let's take a look at a little bit longer situation. There's no real resistance here until 622. Now that in itself is a darn good move from 540 where we are now. That would be a heck of a big move. I'm not saying that's going to happen yet. I'm not ruling it out. I like the fact that we've got two buy signals in the matter of 2 or 3 weeks. First one worked okay, but it didn't turn out to be the lowest low for the move. We've seen these happen. They cluster during bottom and top formations. This one looks a little bit interesting. Keep your eye out on wheat again. Next one is the wheat 1 minute chart. There's your lower low. There's the rally high just in a matter of 15-minute chart, 30 minutes or so ago. And no problems. Next, cattle, still long cattle from way back then on an ER3 on the very last possible day, third day. Stop, staying put for quite a bit. Very loose stop, long-term type of a stop, paying off so far very handsomely. We won't get stopped out until 184, and we're 187 at the moment. It looks like it's trying to have a bearish engulfing, but that won't get us out of the trade. Once we're in a trade, bullish or bearish, any position whatsoever for an overnight, longer term trades, we're only getting out when we get stopped out, not because there's a signal in the other direction. Next, hogs. Not much going on except resistance has stopped it. Support is trying to hold it. We're in the support area right now. Got not too much to say about this at the moment. Next, OJ, pennant formation forming. Little bear trend line across the tops. I'll do it for you real quick. Yeah, that's about right about there. That's good. And across the bottoms would be almost flat. Yeah, that's right about that. That's good. So flat bottom right triangle usually gets broken on the flat side. We'll see what happens. Cocoa. Blow off top and possible double top both. Slipping slowly, which I do not like. The same thing happened over here only about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we ended up with one big down day, and that was it. It screamed higher again. I'm keeping my eye on cocoa for major signals, which I'm just not. I got one, didn't work. But the double top and the overbought conditions look extremely interesting, as well as a double divergence situation on the RSI failing to make new highs because of a lack of momentum, basically. Next, resistance stopped the rally yesterday pretty accurately in coffee, and it also went through a trend line. But it looks like it's failing completely back into the pennant formation. We'll see what happens with this. Resistance is dominant. Pattern didn't hold, didn't work like it normally would have. That would have been getting up there, staying up there, closing up there, and going up some more. But we dropped so much today, it's back in the same situation it was. And sugar to sweet. Oversold, bouncing a little bit, not much. Bearish trend, resistance above the market is stopping it, looking for new lows, expecting a 1936 to be challenged and lower soon. Lastly, cotton the rag. We're currently trading 97.33, almost at the low of the day after the spike here. Now that spike is a little higher than I thought it should be, but since this high with a bearish engulfing and a good trade, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days to the top of the market. Since the top of the market, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Why am I counting? The shoulders on a head and shoulder top formation are usually about the same distance from the top of the market to the left as from the top of the market to the right. This is exactly the same 7 days left and right of the top. Today's high definitely looks like it's going to stay relevant. And at this point, I'm looking for straight down. This is a head and shoulder top. All I have to do is see it go sideways to down, not up very much at all. Don't want a higher high than today. Don't want to close very strong at all anymore. I just want to see if it's going to work like a textbook example, work its way lower in the next 2 or 3 or 4 days next week. I think it's going to break the neckline. Now, the approximate downside objective is 82.25. It's not going to break out today, so I have to raise the neckline, measuring stick, so to speak, a little bit every day that we're still floating above that blue line, but still forming a shoulder. And that could take another couple of days. But I think by the end of next week, this pattern is going to be resolved, whether it's going to work or not. And if it works correctly, like OJ did, that's your downside objective because of the head and shoulder. And back to the E-mini. Low and last, down 1.5 now. Getting more serious, guys. We now have an official outside down day, bearish engulfing in the QQQ. Not yet in the Russell. I'm looking at a different chart on a different monitor. Or I could go, of course, to the QQQ. There's your bearish engulfing, just got below the previous day's low, done. But again, I mentioned not overbought, so it doesn't turn red. Won't turn red, unfortunately. But I like what I see. The 1 minute should be just about low and last on the Qs. Oh, sure. It was just a couple of moments ago, seconds literally. We made the new low. Great. New low for the day. Doing kind of what I expected. I still have a whopping, almost 3 hours to go. You guys have a great weekend. Profitable trading to you. I'm going to be co-hosting, it would appear, the bars closing ninja YouTube. The 4 weeks, I think it's going to be Friday. I don't know what day of the week yet. For the month of April, 4 times. See you then. And this YouTube. Have a great weekend.